We're live.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, okay. Just razzing you guys about being. I'm gonna get canceled for razzing you for being a Gen Xer.
You're middle millennials. I'm a true millennial, and you're an elder.
I'm an elder millennial.
Yeah.
One of my best friends truly is a Gen X, and I've only done this to her like 5 times, but my favorite thing to do is just randomly call her a boomer and watch her face.
Jess? Is it Jess?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to name names. She doesn't really like the joke.
Heard you doing it, yeah.
Oh, wow. Hi,
fun.
Katie and Sydney and Bobby and Lori.
Sarah.
And suppers. That's fun. I'm so excited about this conversation. So first off, happy anniversary, you two.
Thank you. Yeah, here we are, 10 years.
I just posted a video of you as one of my bridesmaids quoting that it was the best bridal party you'd ever been a part of. If you can't repost it because of other people's weddings you've been in, but I know the truth. I know.
You know the truth. It feels like a great segue to not only share, I guess, about me declaring that it was my favorite bridal party, but there was someone else that made a significant declaration, and I would be interested in you all revisiting that memory.
I mean, I feel like that's...
Are you not entertained?
I feel like it's the story we've shared so much. People who have tuned in before are like, okay, we get it. Joy had a good time at her wedding, okay? Yeah, I get a little carried away when I have a microphone, which is why I don't have the little contraption you have right now.
What I want to say is if you've never been to a wedding and in the middle of the reception seen the bride herself get up on stage with the mic, and I am not exaggerating.
Oh, there's footage.
This is there.
You're not exaggerating.
Is this not the best wedding you have ever been to?
Okay, and again, my disclaimer is, besides getting a little carried away, I had emceed a lot of weddings, and I like to hype people up, and I like to get everyone excited. But yeah, I left tact on the stage when I had the power of the mic, and I just was so caught up in the moment. It really was. I mean, we still would say that 10 years
Well, it was even better because, we got married probably after a lot of our friends. So, of course, there's a lot of people in that room. She's like, is this not the greatest wedding you've ever been to? Like, most people, they're like, I mean, I had a wedding. It was pretty great.
It's kind of like they had to look at their spouse and be like, can we say?
I couldn't look at my spouse because I was dancing with him and he literally fell to his knees in laughter. He was no longer eyesight with me. He just dropped to the ground and was laughing that hard on the dance floor.
What I want to know is who's that married couple somewhere who went, yeah. And then the other one's looking at them like,
yeah, thanks.
You are getting any time. Okay. All right. So, wedding reflections aside, so we've got the wedding, we have the marriage.
Yes.
And I'm just curious, we're going to talk about some really cool, helpful traditions and rituals that you two have developed over the years to help you create a more intentional marriage. But I'm just curious, this is just friend speak. How was today? Like, what did reflecting on 10 years look like? What did you all do? What memories came up for you? How'd you celebrate?
Well, we started, the kids wrote a giant card, which was really sweet. Yeah, that was
on
fun.
their own accord?
Well, no, that's the thing is I didn't think we were doing anything today because it's a work day. We're going out of town tomorrow.
Yep.
And so I woke up they had set the table. Matt had gotten donuts, which are hard to come across.
That sounds like a normal thing, but here it's like...
Yeah, it's hard to find.
A real act of chivalry.
Yeah. But the thing I loved the most was that last night when I was
out,
he had the kids write this card, and he said, "This is your card. You can write
whatever you want." And
apparently we haven't taught them that when you're addressing a card, it's to the person. But he had told us, this is a secret for mom. And so the front of the card just said,
to the secret people.
To the secret people. So that was our anniversary card. And then he surprised me today with taking me out to lunch to a really fancy place that we like. I feel like in our old age, we've realized that there's so much that we're so cheap and frugal about. And then there's parts where we're like, I think I'm bougie. High-end service. And You know, there's like this thought that like in France, like you get rude service or whatever. But if you go to some of the nice hotels, it is like I felt like I could ask them like give me a foot massage and they would give me a foot massage.
You know, then like someone would come over and like two people and then
Stool for my purse. Like she was
Oh,
like, here's a
wow.
tiny little stool for you to put your purse on. So that felt really fun. And then we raced home, cleaned up our room, and now we're doing this with you.
Isn't it so funny how much you do acclimate to like, remember the first time I flew first class internationally, like a client paid for it. I just remember it wasn't that long. Like it didn't feel like I'm entering in and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This feels like some sort of like movie and there's fresh cut orchids and like I'm just play acting. And within like 3 hours, I'm like, I belong here.
I can't go back.
I can't go back. Yeah, steerage back
like,
there.
This is my place.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like that. Well, I was just saying, have you seen the Brian Regan clip where he's talking about that? He finally gets into first time and he's like, close the curtain. You know, see them back there.
I earned this.
Yes,
I mean, top 5 bit in any movie from all time would be
Kristen Wiig
scene coming up. I mean, just so classic. Okay. So tell us a little bit. We are going to share with the people a tool that you all have developed. Give us just like a little history of the Read Retreat. When did you first do it? Where did the idea emerge? Tell us a little bit about the origin story.
Well, it just grew out of like conversations we were having, just even when we were like dating, like about what kind of future we imagined or just the way we like talk about our day. But then also I think we both had a reflex because again, we got married in our 30s, like of like talking to people we've found to be like wise or insightful just about life, you know? And so when we got married, it was like we kind of wanted to carry that in. And the first one, we were debating about this when the first one was, but I distinctly remember the one I remember most was like right after Millie, our first child, was born. We left for a weekend, but prior to that, we'd asked some of those people, people that Liz, people like Ken Weigel or Father Rick Gans, like, hey, like, what are some really good questions to ask on like a weekend where we want to like talk about like where we're at? And so we had the good fortune to have a lot of people sort of pour into us in that way.
Yeah.
That was kind of our starting point.
I still remember so that first one, Millie was probably like 6 weeks old.
Wow.
We took her to London and we stayed in the Hoxton Hotel.
We were like not cool enough to be in this hotel with the baby.
We realized someone had said, oh, the Hoxton's great. And then we realized, oh, it's great for single people who, work. And so we are down. So we have this worksheet. So the Read Retreat has now developed into these worksheets that we have. And there's been many iterations, but we have like our brand new baby.
So this is like version 1. And we've got like stacks of paper.
So we're down in the like Hoxton bar area at like 5:30 p.m. having a drink, doing our, sheets and filling it out. And I wish I could do accents like you, but there were like these 20-something Brits and they saw what we were doing. They asked us about it. People are always curious. Wherever we go, people are like, what are you working? Yeah.
Oh,
and so we kind of told them and she's like, oh, but she had already had a few drinks at this point. And she's like, oh, I want to do that. I want to have a baby with me and be doing things like that. And it's just like such a she was really into
Wait, was it Bridget Jones? Did you meet her in the Hoxton lobby?
Matt's always like, anytime you try to do a British accent, you just go full like Mary.
And her eyes get really big for some reason. Yeah. Like all British people have.
That's all I got.
Okay, I love it. But I think that what you experienced from Bridget Jones in the lobby isn't unique. You've had the experience from even friends like me who have kind of been begging you for a long time. We've known that you do the Read Retreat, which I think it's worth saying. Probably 50% of the value is the commitment to 2 days outside of your normal routine.
Yeah.
To say the purpose of this is to invest in, touch base, problem solve, dream, evaluate. And it is interesting that it is just like humans are so fascinating, where it's like there's so many parts of our lives that we would be willing to do something like that for that actually matter less to our long-term like happiness, fulfillment, sense of alignment, and piece. And so, one, I think that's just like a great place to start for folks is like,
Yeah.
could you think about a rhythm or a ritual? And it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to leave your city. As you've stated, it's really helpful to just get in a different environment. Like any
Yeah.
different environment just helps you kind of get into a different headspace and
Yeah.
protect that space. But I feel like that alone, if folks are listening and are like, this is all they take away, it's like
Yeah.
a 1 year strategic ops on
Yeah.
your marriage.
Yeah.
Like if you were an entrepreneur and
Yeah.
you had a business, or you're just somebody who is in a company but is in a
Yeah.
role of leadership, there's just no world
Yeah.
in which at least once a year you're not setting time aside to get out
Yeah.
of the day-to-day kind of hustle and bustle and to go, okay,
Yeah.
what's the vision? What's the plan? What are the goals? How are we tracking on the goals that we
Yeah.
said we did? Have you guys ever missed a year?
No.
Not, I don't think so. 1 year. Yeah, to your point, Liz, like you don't, yes, we did that. The one we mentioned, we went to London, that we were super fortunate to be able to do that. But like another year, we were back in the United States and like the grandparents took the kids and we like just went next door, basically.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was like, and we were back for, but there was enough of a separation
Yeah.
where we felt like we were in that where you didn't have, a 2-year-old coming in and like blurting us, as we say in our family, when someone interrupts you. So that was the principles: get separation, not necessarily go on some, lavish. But you can do the journey, that's great, but also just make the time.
Well, and for like the investment, like you're saying, like there's no company that doesn't do like a 360 review or like have these check-in points, because they know that the payoff to like checking in with their employees, reviewing what they've done to figure out where they're going, always has a greater impact than if they don't. And so whenever people find out that we do this, I think the thing that we always feel sad is that there's oftentimes like shame, like they're like, oh, we should really do that. I don't know how we would ever do that. So that's why we compiled the document that we did. But we also really want to like say, just in the same way with Focus Labs, we had some friends in town and we were just like raving about Focus Labs, and they were thinking about doing it and making the investment. And we were like, we promise you, when you invest in things like this, it always has a return, whether
Yeah.
just like what you carve out for your family, for your life, or decisions you make for your business that come back financially, it's always worth the investment. So we always say, like, when you feel like, oh, I just don't know how we could ever find the time, it's like, if you find the time, it is going to make the subsequent 12 months
Yeah.
so much more efficient.
Yeah.
The time you
Right.
save by the time you invest on the front end is like certain decisions like been made so much easier. Like instead of having 6 conversations over,
Yeah.
drawn out over whatever, it's like, oh yeah, like we really dug into this a couple months ago and like we know where we're headed with this.
And you make better decisions when you've done the work before the opportunity or the crisis arises, right?
Yes.
It's like if you don't do the work ahead of time, it's kind of like going to the grocery store when you're hungry. Something's going to be driving you, whether it's fear or anxiety or unrealistic optimism. And that's when we can get into situations where it's like, oh, I said yes to this thing or I said no to that thing. And like it didn't actually really line up with what I said I wanted when I
Yeah.
was in a place where I was like
Yeah.
centered and rooted and considered and in conversation with my partner or other important people
Yeah.
in my life. So not only does it save those 6 conversations, I genuinely believe the conversations you make are going to be better because they're going to be more aligned
Yeah.
with your actual values versus your kind of like gut, either fear or excitement instinct.
Yeah.
Ken
Or
is
if
on
you're-
here, who's my Focus Lab partner,
Yeah.
and who Joy and Matt mentioned earlier on in this. And hi, Audra. Audra said, yes, my husband and I invested in a Focus Lab with Liz for their 15-year anniversary.
I love that.
That's great.
So, and then let's see, Sarah said, I think that people can get really martyry about leaving their kids and carving out time for their marriage, but it has so many positive benefits. 100%.
Yeah.
Yes. The
It's-
investment. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that's something so we have a 20-minute video with the document that we send where literally the first chunk is us addressing this obstacle of leaving your children and the financial investment.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really think it's something that people, if we get into the habit of it, we gave a shout out to you and Ken and all the people that have given us kind of good ideas, because again, we felt like we were always one step behind all of our friends who got married and had kids before us. And we had some friends that said, right away when you have your first child, even though you're so tired and you just want to get into bed and watch Netflix, get a weekly routine of doing something together. Date night going out, or even after the kids go to bed, like we're going to play a game together, we're going to do something creative together. Get in that routine. And then your kids are used to it. And as I said in the video, I'm like, if my kids see me putting lipstick on, now it's either for going live with Liz, or they're like, is it date night? Is it date night?
Like, I made it into the Reed family conversation.
Yeah,
about that.
Yeah. But it's like, it's that kind of thing that when you're prioritizing, you were saying too, of like, instead of having 6 conversations, it's like tabled for the retreat or these intentional times. But also, I think for people who are non-confrontational and you do have this big decision to make, usually what happens is you finally get to the point where there's no more time. And then the decision is made, like probably on the heels of a fight. And it creates this tension in your marriage that if you're just, oftentimes, like if we're coming up on when we do our retreat, and you don't have to do it in January, you can do it whenever you want in the year. He'll be like, hey, let's hold that. Let's hold that for our retreat.
Yeah. So she'll be like, kind of start bouncing like ideas that come to her in like, I don't know, September. I'll be like, cool. Like, why don't you write that down and we'll talk about it at the retreat? And what's cool is she knows I'm not kicking the can.
If Ben heard that, he would be like, we're doing this. If he excuse
4 months delay.
Ideas.
Well, some of the ideas too are like fully baked, right? It's like, let's see if that still has legs in January. But she also knows, like, yes, we're going to come back to it because it's something we do every year. And I think that's also the power of it. Like, it's good the first year, but it's even better the second year because you're kind of like repeating the sequence, and that lets you sort of have a marker and see how far along you've come. And then also there's this trust of like, I know this thing I'm bounce kicking around right now. Like, there was a conversation I remember we had this year where like I told Joy about something like I felt like I really needed. And it was great because we were in this place where she was really listening, but like I'd thought about it, but I was also like, I know I'm not procrastinating it because that might be my reflex of like, I don't want to deal with that right now.
Yeah.
But like, well, no, it's a retreat. When else am I going to do it? And we had a great conversation. And so I think the knowing it's going to happen is really powerful.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think it does 2 things. It's like, to your point, there's something about like, does this still feel so important, urgent, exciting, aligned 60 days from now? Like, that's probably been one of my biggest growth points, is just recognizing how extreme my bias towards action is and my comfort for changes. And so it's a very helpful tool for me to be like, give yourself a 60-day check-in. But Matt, to your point, I love that it allows kind of spaciousness for good decisions to be made without it feeling like we're just delaying it inevitably. There is like a specific container in the future where this conversation for sure is going to happen. I think that's in seasons when Ben and I have been in therapy, there's been a similar thing that's gotten created where it's like, okay, maybe instead of in the heat of the moment addressing this, we know we have a therapy appointment in 2 weeks. Let's write it down, make sure we circle back to this. And probably, honestly, half of the time, it's like 2 weeks from then, it was fine. We figured it out. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, so you guys put together, and literally just this morning, it is hot off the press. For years, your friends have
been like agonizing over this.
Share the Google Doc. And you've always told me, you're like, no, it's not ready. And I'm like, girl, I know a lot about you and your life, and I've seen things. I think I can handle an unfinished Google Doc. But you really wanted it to be in a certain format before you shared it. And so I'm telling the people, I'm seeing it I got it about 9 minutes before you got it. Okay? So it's now available to purchase online, which is so cool. But before we kind of get into how to purchase it, I would love for you all just to, it's a 43-page document. Let's say somebody doesn't end up buying it. What are some of your favorite exercises or kind of charts or things in here that have been most helpful to you all?
I think we would both say, should we say on the country and see if we're going to say it?
Yeah, it's like fun. A dating show.
1, 2, 3.
The obituary. Or the obituary.
Okay, I love the obituary. So let's share. I love this exercise. So tell the people.
And we actually upped it this year because, and again, that's why we've been waiting. The last 3 years, we've been like, we know we want to make this for our friends and available for people. And so the last 3 retreats, we've had that filter of like, we know how this like messy doc makes sense to us, but is it going to make sense to other people if they're doing it for the first time? Because what we've said is like each year it gets better and better because there's several exercises where it's like, this is great, but then you go back and you look what you said a year ago and see kind of the trends that start to come out. And that's what's so interesting. So the obituary, we write it every year. It's always like, and then we read it out loud.
Well, so that you write your own obituary and then read it to your spouse.
Yeah.
And there's like nary a dry eye by the end of that thing. And then she always goes, I don't know why I cry at this. I'm like, you cry every year at this.
Yes. But it's so clarified. So kind of the theme, there's 3 sections. The first section
of the retreat.
Yeah. The first section feels a little tedious. You look back at the last 12 months and you kind of go through and like there's all these prompts to kind of evaluate what the last 12 months have been. Then this next section is looking to the future. And so most of it is like you go kind of 10 years down the road and then 30 and then kind of where you think you might just naturally die if that's how you go. And but then after you do all of those things, then you start to kind of see themes of things that are important to you. And then you can go, yeah, if these things that are important to me in the future, like only 3 things that I was doing last year kind of supported that. And then you can shift and go, okay, so now for the next 12 months, what are things we're going to say yes to or things we're going to say no to? And the obituary is just the most clarifying. And so the way we upped it this year.
The thing that's cool about it actually sits at the middle. So you actually write about the obituary like that. You think a lot about, you spend a lot of time at the beginning thinking about the past year. And then you like jump to writing your obituary. And there's this like gap. And you kind of spend the rest of the retreat like working through that. And some of it actually feels like
you're reverse engineering your obituary.
Yeah. Basically. You're kind of like, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle here. And it's interesting because it feels for me always every year I'm like, I feel like I just kind of keep writing and you're sort of like what's happening, but it always snaps into focus like on the last day because it's like it's just been percolating and you're talking about it. I told Joy it's like kind of like you're turning a prism. You'll see like if you kind of are saying the same things over and over, you're not doing it wrong. You're noticing themes. But the obituary is so helpful in clarifying all that.
Yeah. So the way that we upped it this year that I think is, it can sound.
You didn't just talk about your life, you actually predicted one another's deaths.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's the way you upped it.
I will say that we every year when we've done the obituary, there's several, and we kind of try to make it humorous sometimes. And so the theme that I've seen in my obituary is that we always die in each other's arms. And so, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the Notebook.
I'm imagining the Yoko Ono and Lennon.
It's exactly that.
That is Yoko Ono. Okay, continue.
Okay, he had never seen the Notebook. And so this year, after the read retreat, I was like, hey, this is such
I thought it was like a rom-com.
We start watching the Notebook. He's finally like, okay, we're watching it. 20 minutes in, he goes, where's Jennifer
Lawrence, Bradley Cooper?
He thought it was Silver Linings.
Silver Linings Playbook. I'm like, where are they? This is just Ryan Gosling and that other gal.
Yeah, I'm like, this is a different movie. And by the end, he's like, this was a lot.
I can't believe you dumped that on me. Like, that was a lot. I had to like get up and leave the room. I was just carrying
it. I'm so glad you just mentioned that because Joy, have I told you about Ben and I's rom-com?
No.
Oh my gosh. Over Christmas break, I don't know why. No, over Christmas break, we decided I used to not watch rom-coms. Like when I was in my youth, I think I just felt like I was too good for them. Like it was not smart enough. It wasn't interesting enough. It wasn't important enough. And I just had this realization that that's such a sad, dumb way to live your life. And I was like, I have so much to make up for. Yeah. And so Ben and I, we took 2 weeks off over Christmas and we watched a rom-com every single night.
Are you serious?
Every single night. Ken, if
what was your favorite?
Hands down, no questions asked. It was actually bad to start with this because you will never, ever top it is When Harry Met Sally. It's just unequivocally the best writing, dialogue, story arc,
Yeah.
everything from then on out does feel like it pales in comparison.
Yeah.
But we've continued it. We just watch rom-coms almost every night in like 30-minute chunks. Like we just get into bed and we'll just watch the last 30 minutes of 10 Things I Hate About You. And it has, I will say, it's changed our lives because I'm just like, life is too hard and stressful out in the world. I can't introduce any more in the form of entertainment.
Yeah.
And also the rom-comness rubs off on you. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there and just
wait.
say,
No, I have a question because I could talk about movies all day. Would you say that there is a decade or kind of like period of time where rom-com, now that you're a connoisseur, where they were at their peak?
Absolutely. The 1990s, there just won't be. Like I told Ben, I was just like, if I'm ever feeling anxiety about the world, all I need you to do is show me a picture that's clearly like filmed in the 1990s of like a brownstone in Brooklyn. And it's autumn and the music starts. And I'm just like, it just gets my body into this like, everything's going to be fine. So yes, the 90s will never be topped. Okay, but let's head back. Okay, so you do the obituary. And what I love about this exercise is in addition to it creating this like, just like sweet connecting moment, it really does. It's so clarifying. It's so clarifying to go, what am I actually going to care about 50 years from now? And then that gives you so much clarity for going, okay, so in the next 30 days, what matters? In the next year, what matters? In the next 5 years, what matters? Joy, I feel like we've talked about this before, that I feel like I'm incapable of thinking about 6 hours from now. I'm just like, I have no idea. What am I going to need? Every day I'm surprised when dinner rolls around. And I'm just like, oh, that's the thing. People need to eat 6 hours from now. I just don't think about, but I probably every day of my life think about when I'm 80 years old. And just like, who do I want to be? Who do I want to be surrounded by? What do I want my life's work to have been? And I just feel like getting and you have a similar thing, except you think about your graveyard and your like funeral, like where you're going to be buried. But I love the idea of formalizing that and doing it in partnership. So your partner, I could do a better job of that because I'm off in la la land thinking about who I want to be and what I want our family to be when we're 80, and I don't really have a practice for like talking to Ben about that. So I love that is shared.
Well,
okay.
I was just going to say, if you feel like with your spouse that sometimes you see things in them, like things that you believe about them, but it's like a touchy subject to bring up, I will say, and Julie, I saw that you said you were like, I love all this. I'm a little freaked out by the obituaries. I get it. It can seem really dark, but you can add an element of like, gratitude and really things that you hope for. You're just going, this is all the things that Julie did in her life. These are the accomplishments she made. These are the things that people say. This is what her children say about her. This is what her spouse says about her.
Julie, I could do an obituary for you right now that would make you weep because you've had such a beautiful life already. And so I do think it is like to be able to articulate that and honor that. It's more about honoring the life that you've lived versus focusing on the fact that now you're dead.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about doing it as a couple is like, so not this year, but the year before, I wrote something in my obituary. Like when we moved abroad, like it was, you don't lose your friends, but you're not around them anymore. And, we'd been abroad for 8 years last year. And I wrote like, I want, not just to have like a bunch of people in my funeral, but I was like hopeful about how many people I'd be in relationship and lives I'd touch. I was like, there's like 1,000 people there. And Joy looked at me and she's like, dude, like, you're not living your life in a way where that would actually happen right now. Just like, because ever since we moved here, I was just like, kind of, I don't know. I felt like I left my life behind in the US and I hadn't, we had kids. It was just hard, and then you're in your 40s and all this stuff. And that was a really good challenge. And that would not have come up if she didn't know, and that wasn't like a set goal for me. It was just as I was imagining, like, this is how many people I'd like. It was just, I sort of threw it in. I've been to funerals, like, where there's like so many people, like, how on earth did this person touch this many lives?
Yeah.
And it's so cool and inspiring. I was like, yeah, I want that. And she's like, dude, like, how are you getting there right now? And I was like,
But it's so interesting because, and this was kind of what I was touching on earlier, like when you have these hard conversations with your spouse, something you believe in them about. So, in Portland, even the video we sent out, inviting people to our wedding, we were talking about each other and I was like, he loves dudes. Like, I just, because he had such an impact in Portland, like being a part of all these like men's groups and gatherings and things like that. And so then I noticed, obviously we're having kids and so there's grace for that. But I was like, this is something that has atrophied in your life. You are so good gathering people and you're so good at being just like a friend to other dudes. Like, why aren't you trying to like gather guys, especially in the city where it's so transient and there's so many people that probably men at this stage in life need friends. And so, but he would just resist it. He just kind of kept resisting it. But then when he wrote that in his obituary, it was almost like his own statement
Yes.
allowed me to go, see, you do want this.
and it allowed me to receive it rather than being like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I was
Totally.
like,
Well,
I
it shifted
wrote
from
it.
potentially being something that you felt like your spouse was kind of putting on you. Like, why don't you be more like this? Versus
Yeah.
once you've created the space for your partner to go, who is the truest, highest version of yourself? And then once you state that, I get to be your partner in like helping you get to where you said you want to go. And I feel like that's very different than like, I have ideas of where I think you should go. And so it is shifting the agency to each individual to go like, you have to do the excavation to understand what are your values, what are your hopes, what are your dreams. And then I get to partner with you in bringing that to life. So it's like you have to have the agency and then you get to kind of give your partner some authority in getting to be a voice in your life to go like is all of the ways in which I said I'm going to spend my time and energy over the next year align with who I actually say I want to be. Will you okay, so after we excavate, we reflect on the prior year. Then we kind of zoom way out, the like literally
way
end of
out.
life, what really matters. Give us a little bit of how do we reverse engineer this? What are some tools or questions that you're asking in order to go like, okay, what does this mean then for the next year?
Yeah, so kind of it breaks out like a weekend's great because you kind of start with like some if you can spending a little time beforehand like thinking about the previous year. Then yes, like you said, Liz, you zoom out, you go into the future. There's similar categories so you can see how the stuff maps across. But then like the last day is really like and Joy looks forward to this because she's like a planner and an activator and all this stuff. There's like a little calendar you can fill out. She's like ready to do that calendar by the time we get to the end, but it's like okay, take those categories like concretely, like what does the next year look like? What actions are you gonna take in as like for this or that or like a goal? Do you have a creative goal? What does that look like? Again, we try to ask the questions a little differently, but it's all trying to get at the same thing from like a bunch of different angles. And then yes, like we always end up doing the calendar. I feel like that's an important moment too, because it finally feels like you're not just conceptualizing or remembering, you're actually like, okay, so now like that means in April like if Liz is coming to Paris, even though that's a busy month for us, we said here that that's like a super important relationship for us. So like we've got to make time for that because we've already decided on that. And it all becomes like very clarifying and you feel like you're working together on it.
I love that. One of the things I actually say in my keynote about building connection and community is if you don't date it, you won't create it. Like, do not kid yourself. Until it gets to the calendar, and my theory here is it actually has to be a reoccurring event on your calendar. If you don't have a reoccurring event on your calendar, you're either not going to create it or it's going to take you way longer and be way more frustrating. And so I love that kind of point of going like, at the point that the calendar comes out, this is no longer nice talk and fun words. This is actually there is a degree of commitment and alignment on it.
Liz,
Julie,
the calendar in this retreat packet is for you. It's all analog though. That's the thing. None of it is just, it's like, that's the other weird thing about this is like, you're mostly in paper. I mean, this is the most I work in paper for the whole year.
Yeah.
And the sort of fact of being a little bit divorced from your device, people can organize that how they want, but like, you're not going to be able to do the worksheets like with your phone.
Yeah.
And so it lets you think a little differently too. So yes,
Totally.
but then you can go to your calendar and put the recurring thing in there.
Yeah, I love it. Julie said she's been married for 34 years to the sweetest guy, by the way. They have a lovely marriage, but that she's never done anything like this before. And she is ready to level it up. I love that, Julie.
Well, okay, she did a focus lab, right? So I feel like
no, Julie didn't do a focus lab. Julie, I would love to do a focus lab with you and Mike. Basically, I mean, a focus lab is essentially the questions are a little bit different. The core principle is really the same. It is carving out this time, having a process that you go through so you're not just like blank slating it. The difference in a focus lab versus the read retreat is just facilitation or not. Do you have a third party that's there to kind of guide you through this? Maybe ask some kind of different questions or notice some different dynamics because you're not in the marriage, because you have a little bit of distance. And again, I mean, I think both are incredible investments in your marriage. But the kind of core principle is really the same. It's like be intentional, be strategic, have a plan.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, the focus labs you can do as a couple, but we both did them individually for professional life. And I feel like having that outside facilitator was so important. Yep. And then the read retreat, as we said, like when you get the first one will be great. But it's the second, the third, the fourth, once you get to the rhythm. And then like when we open, like we don't have a lot of space in our Paris apartment, but when we open up our little cupboard and see all of the years and these like thick documents that I know our kids will, I hope our kids will look at someday when they're writing our obituary. They'll be like, we don't have to write an obituary for mom and dad. They wrote 42.
Which one? Let's pick the one. Let's pick the one for 2012. That was just republish, reprint. I love it so much. So good. Okay. Is there any like ritual or routine that you have for ending the retreat and like going back into the real world?
That's a really good question.
That might have to be a read retreat too.
We may have to integrate that. I was going to say is the key thing too is like the nice thing about doing it over a couple of days is it gives you space to just have fun. We try to do like the working through the document, but then also like it's just going and doing something that's not just the doc. So enjoying like some kind of, I don't know, whatever it is. It's varied from year to year. This year we went to a place that just has this like, it's like in French, it's called a Nordic bain, which just means like a Nordic bath, but it's just a big outdoor wood-fired hot tub. So you sit in this thing, it's winter, and it just, I don't know what it is. It heats you you're just warm for the rest of the day.
Happiness in that.
30 minutes in this tub, like you're just not cold for the rest of the day.
Disclaimer, because we put it in one sample agenda so people could kind of see how we map
things. I think
there's
a lot of Nordic bond in that.
Other activity is Nordic bond. Do a worksheet. Nordic bond, do a worksheet.
It's just like open bar on these Nordic bonds is so great.
So I would say, to answer your question about, is there something we do to wrap it up? There's something that's in there that we haven't done every year, which is like a week after. So the section is like after the retreat. A week after, kind of you thinking about all these like themes that have come up, and it says write a letter to yourself next year. So then when we start the retreat the following year, you kind of kick things off reading a letter to yourself. And I will say the years that we haven't done it, we're like,
it was like a time capsule.
It really is.
Yeah.
Ken and I, for I think 4 or 5 years, Ken, if you're still on, maybe this was our 5th year. Anyway, at the end of the year, we always do a year retrospective where it's like, hey, before you even start dreaming about the next year, just take a few hours to really go back and think about and reflect on the prior year. And so then the cool thing is, okay, 4th, you then have this record. So it's like, I always start at like, before we do this retrospective, I always go back and read the prior year. Yeah. And I'm delusional because I think I'm like, I think I kind of remember where I was at or what my headspace was or where I was spending my time. And it is always like, wait, did my Google Drive get hacked? I wrote those words.
Like what? Like what are some of the things that you're like?
I'm just like, there's whole huge events that I forgot about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's just completely like, I'm just like, oh yeah, that did happen.
Oh, I'm so like you, Liz. It happens to me too.
A rose-colored. Like, I have a harder time probably remembering painful situations. So it's really helpful for me to go back and be like, oh, that was really hard on you. Or here's a huge one to me that is so powerful that happened this year, is there was something that I was so anxious about. last year with one of my kids. And we're in just such a different spot this year. And it was so helpful because it's like, instead of just kind of forgetting, like, oh, you were really scared about that. You were really anxious. It like helps me build my muscle memory. So then the next time I'm so scared, I'm so anxious about something, going like, you've been here before, sweet girl.
Yeah.
And and this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And, and then it was very cool because we did it in the context of community and had other people sharing. I just remember there also being a moment where someone was sharing about their own experience and going like, oh, now I'm anxious about what you're anxious about, but you're saying the worst thing never happened. And it just like helps create this. I think it helps rightfully place your emotions. That like feelings and emotions are so helpful and they're such helpful indicators. But if you just purely go off of them and you don't actually like track them and evaluate them, they actually become kind of unreliable narrators for our lives. And so it's like, let's give them a seat at the table, but let's document it. Let's like actually retrospect them. And then I just feel like it helps you have you just have a healthier, more grounded
Well, the
posture.
the phrase I always say is, my feelings are always real, but they're not always right. They're real, but they're not always right.
Yeah.
And I think we don't take enough time to look back, mark moments, to actually talk about these things that have happened, because I feel like it's the antidote to anxiety. And so many of us are just going through life so anxious because we're just letting all this stuff come at us, as opposed to like taking moments to reflect, think about the future. And that's what we say. It's like tagline, so that you can live well in the present. It's actually to give you peace in the next year. It's not to go, I'm going to set all these unattainable goals and I'm going to hustle. This is not about hustling. This is not about hustling at all. It's like, if you go, oh, I can't think what I'm doing, the next 12 months. I can't fill out that 12-month calendar. I'm going, no, if I can stop and go, no, I don't know what's going on in March, but I do know, like we said, Liz is coming in April.
I love this.
April. This thing's happening in August. Then you can go, that's a big part of our thing. Is like, what do I need to say no to this year? And when you're just figuring out what you should say yes or no to in the moment, and you haven't stopped to think like, if I say yes to this thing right now, that's going to be a 6-month commitment, and I haven't thought about what's coming down the pipeline for work or family or whatever 3 months into that, or Liz coming to visit, am I going to get to a place where my anxiety is going to go through the roof because I've overcommitted? And this isn't like setting boundaries so that you never have to make any commitments or do anything hard, but it's just plotting out your life so that you can be a peaceful human being.
Yeah. I will say I experienced being on the other side of this so clearly when I was planning my 40th birthday, which ended up being, kind of a
the best weekend we've ever had.
But if you think about, I didn't start planning it. Like, I didn't even start seeding it. My birthday was in November. I think it wasn't until September that I was like starting to look at dates. And you were one of the first people I reached out to because you're obviously coming from, far away. And your response to me was you quickly looked at the calendar and there wasn't anything that was like immovable on the calendar. And I remember you saying, Matt and I have dedicated days and money for things just like this. Like, it was so clear. It was such an easy yes for you because it was like, clearly there was work that had been done prior where you and Matt had gone, what are our priorities? Where are we willing to invest our time and money? And so then when the opportunity came across your plate, it was just like, I didn't know the details of how this would come about, but we've already decided as a family, this is a high value for us. So it's an easy yes. And
we have a Liz fund. We have a Liz fund.
No, but actually you do in the dot, you like identify like, hey, is this an important relationship to me? And so like, Liz, you're on there. And so it was just like, she knew, she came to me with it, but she also knew I'd say yes because we talked about it months before.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so there's actually 2 questions that I want to get to before we wrap up. The first is from Ken. And he said, who is, those of you who don't know, Ken is all of our, he's our
he's like,
okay.
Kind of
shout out
he's
to Ken.
Also very close. He's also very close with Matt. They were really good friends before.
We were married because of Ken and Lindsay.
Yeah.
They're married.
They really pushed for us to date.
Also,
So
Ken is my dad. He's actually my real dad. So really, no, just kidding. Just kidding. He's not that old. He's only a couple years older than me. Okay, Ken said, "You guys," I really did just feel like for a moment it was like, "No, I knew Ken first. No,
okay, can we one up each
he
other?
married us."
Can you tell him? I feel like I knew Ken first.
I think
Okay.
you may have me beat, but only by a little bit.
Correcting us. Okay, Ken said you guys have worked hard to make your relationship feel safe. How would you advise couples doing this to make this space feel safe for
Yeah.
these types of conversations? Because let's be honest, and by safe, we don't mean, someone's going to throw a brick at somebody else's head, hopefully, but safe in the sense that it's like these can bring up
Yes.
tender, unmet longings from the past, tender, unmet longings about the future, frustrations. Sharing your dreams can be a really tender, vulnerable thing. So, yeah, what are some tips that you guys have to really tend to and set the tone relationally before you kind of open up this depth of conversation?
Yeah. You go.
Well, we talk about it. There's a whole like introduction and a video in the beginning of the workbook because we don't want to just say like this is going to be so fun and there's not going to be any tension. Probably the worst fight of our marriage happened on one of these retreats, but also because we know that we're in it together. Because it was exactly that. It was a dream that I had. That I felt like he had paid lip service to, and that he was never actually going to like support me in doing. And it was so tender and so vulnerable that I just ended up saying horrible things because that's how I respond is like vicious with my words. And
Oh, I know.
but it ultimately led to us getting to the root. So that's what we would say.
Right.
There's two things. One thing we took out of the document because we were like, not everybody's might feel comfortable doing this. But in the very beginning, we had originally said like, before you start, look at each other, take a deep breath and go, we are on the same team. And if you can be assured, if you're like, again, there's probably going to be one of you in the relationship was the initiator of doing this. And so in the intro or in our video, I can't remember, we just say, if you're the person that was like invited into this, just try to be open, try to like not, shut down somebody's dreams or ideas and remember that you are on the same team, that you're doing this to try to like enrich and better your marriage and just like try to be all in for it.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, next question is, we're getting some really great questions. The next question is from Sarah. What do we do if one spouse is a little bit more reluctant than the other spouse? One is like, I'm all in. I want to do this. This sounds great. The other one is not going for it. We also see that a lot in our, typically in a couples focus lab, there's somebody driving it. And then there's somebody who's a little bit more in the passenger seat. So how would you
Well, I feel like
that?
maybe you would be, because we're both in on doing this. So you've had the experience of facilitating where there's a couple where one's maybe not in. What do you do to kind of help change that?
I think in the kind of pre-call when they're deciding to do it, a huge thing that's important to me is just getting really curious and understanding what's coming up for the spouse or the partner. And Ken, I would love for you to drop your thoughts on this as well. Is what's coming up for this other partner. There's usually something underneath it that's making them feel reluctant. A lot of times in a marriage, there can be a dynamic where there is a planner, there's somebody who does have a little bit more of a bias towards action. And so sometimes that spouse can feel like, great, now we're planning, like almost like if you give a mouse a cookie, like I already kind of feel like you're 2 steps ahead of me or kind of running our lives, or I don't have a voice that maybe matters as much. And now you're going to get 2 days for your dreams and your wild plans or, confirmation of these things. And it takes me a longer time to like process or come up with that vision. And so I think in that scenario, it's really about identifying that that's a dynamic in the partnership. And then within a focus lab, typically there are 3 days and each partner gets their own entire day. And the other partner is actually not really allowed to participate unless they are specifically asked. Like, what are your reflections on that? Or, and so a lot of folks have never in their entire marriage, one, spoke about their life, their longing, their past, their fears, their, ideas for the future for a whole day, let alone had their spouse just be in a place where all they can do is to listen and to stay curious and to observe and to know, like, hey, on day 3, we're going to have an opportunity. Either tomorrow, you're going to have your entire day. And then after that, we're going to have a whole day for the two of you. But I think a lot of times it's really about giving one of those partners a lot of confidence that it's like, you're going to have a voice and a place. This isn't going to be like a runaway train situation.
Yeah.
So would you say to the spouse, so if it's now they don't have the facilitator, they're doing the read retreat and they're the ones that initiated it, would you tell them, say, hey, just call it out. Say like, look, I know I'm the one that's kind of a little bit more like, hey, let's do this, let's do that. I really want this to be a space where you can dream, you can talk. And, is that what?
I think I would probably just actually also lead with curiosity of going, hey, here's why I'm really excited about this. I'm sensing some reluctancy in you. I'd love to know, like, what's coming up for you? Like, why are you not excited about this in a non-judgmental way? Not like, why are you being such a wet blanket? But really using that as an opening, because what comes up for them might really surprising. It could be everything from what I just said to I'm just so overwhelmed with like life, the idea of doing and how you address that, their concerns is going to be entirely, I would say don't address their concerns until you know what their concerns are and really honor that. And I think how you even bring up this conversation is going to either build trust or take trust away from you going and having a whole 2 or 3 day retreat with them. It's like, if you're leading with curiosity and going like, your fears and your reluctancies, like, they matter to me. Tell me about them, and getting really curious. I don't know a lot of people who, when they are met with genuine curiosity and not defensiveness, not persuasiveness, I don't know that I've ever met somebody who on the other side of that doesn't go, wow, that felt really good. Like, thanks for asking. And then when I shared, thanks for not trying to explain it away or defend it and really tending to that. And it's almost like that's the appetizer. And then if you can do that for the next 2 or 3 days, like the amount of just goodwill and intimacy that builds in a partnership to go like, you just heard me and you didn't argue with me and you didn't not validate me or you didn't make it about you or whatever the specific dynamic in that partnership is. And so I think if you're the one who's like all in, approach it, yes, just with a sense of tenderness and curiosity and a real desire to know your partner and to create space in your marriage for them versus like, here's another big idea that I have that I'm like forcing on this. Okay, last question that we have.
Well, can I just say one thing, just really practical on that too, Liz? If you just to respond to that dynamic of like maybe there's one person who's more enthusiastic, one person who's more reluctant. The reluctant person should choose where you go. So at least they can be amped on the spot. So because there's space in the retreat to do activities. So there's some place you've been talking about going. If you're going to take the time to get away, go someplace like one of you wants to go. So at least that way, if one of the people's getting their itch to like talk about this stuff scratched, obviously you're both supposed to participate, but that can be energizing to the other person.
I love that idea. That's such a good practical tip, Matt. Okay, last question was from somebody who's like, listen, the last 3 years for us has been hard. We have just been we have been in a valley. And the idea of going on a whole weekend retreat, one, talking about the past doesn't feel very fun. Dreaming about the future feels a little bit hard. How do we start this or do this without just feeling like bummed about where we're at?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say maybe review it together first, and just say, like, does this seem like something we have the bandwidth for doing? And you might not. Like, maybe it's counseling first with that third party. Maybe maybe you need like a mediator, someone to talk you through it. Because I do think that this is, but you're acknowledging it. If both parties are going like, we've had a hard year, and we're going to just kind of like call it out, that could actually really be a part of the healing process. Like I was talking to a friend last night who was saying she couldn't figure out, she like journaled her whole life. We were talking about the healing process of physically writing. And she couldn't figure out, she was like, I stopped, at a certain point in my life, I stopped journaling. And I said, was there something that happened in your life at that point where you actually finally felt like, I've released this thing that I've been journaling about, or I found like wholeness and healing? And she was like, how did you know? Like she had never made that connection. And so I think if you go, hey, we're going to take a weekend that might be hard and we're going to write and say some things, and then we're going to close the door on that. If you're both at a place where you feel like you want to do that, it could be really healing.
And I think recognizing that, especially in a marriage, and I think this is why divorce rates are so high after kind of traumatic events like losing a child or going bankrupt or whatever it is not just because the hard thing happened to you, but I think what the hard thing is can be the same. So it's like you had mentioned this person who commented mentioned infertility. So it's like you guys experienced the same event. So the same painful thing happened to you. The story that each of you have about your infertility journey is likely pretty different.
Yeah.
And what that brings up in yourself, your own insecurities, your own fear. And so sometimes, even with hard stuff, I think we can make the assumption this has certainly happened in my marriage where I'm like, well, we both went through this. And I actually can end up feeling, but I think we've both at times in our marriage felt a little bit lonely inside our own marriage because it's like, oh, that thing that it brought up for you is not a big deal for me. Here's my thing. This is why that was so hard for me. And so I do really feel like there's value. To Joy's point, I think there could be some wisdom depending on where you're both at individually from an individual kind of mental health place in your marriage. It could be really wise to say, let's treat this really tenderly and let's do 6 months of counseling to kind of get some good rhythms and practices and habits for how we communicate about tender things before diving into something like this. But I also think this could be a really helpful tool. The last thing that I'll say is it could also be an opportunity for you guys to intentionally shed a little bit more light on what did work. It's like, sounds like you're still married. Congratulations. After a year of, or, after 3 years of infertility, and I can't remember what the other things were, unsuccessful business ventures, like all of those things, we can kind of get in a mental rut too of just like, it's all bad. It's all bad and it's all hard. And this could be a really sweet way for you to go like, let's go dig for the good. Let's celebrate the fact that we're still married, even if it feels like we're holding on by a thread. Like, can we look at some moments from the last year that gave us a glimmer of hope or that we feel really proud of ourselves for how we handled?
That's kind of like what you were saying earlier about taking the time to like mark the moments. That's this phrase I've been saying a lot, like mark the moments, good and bad. And then when you're doing this every year, like when you do it with focus labs and you look back, if you're marking both the good and the bad, it does put things in perspective. It also, like looking back a year from now, will give you a view of gratitude for the things that like you have lived through. You are still married, like you said. So if you both are on the same page and you're willing to do that, I think it can be really beautiful.
And it's not all about the past either, I would say. There's years too, like I remember I can't compare experiences, but where I kind of had a hard years a couple of years ago. And like the part for the past about me was kind of light. Like I said, and I just kind of had a couple things where I was like, this was not good for me. But then there was more, but it still facilitated discussions between me and Joy, I think, that were helpful. I think some of the points about counseling are really well taken as well, that like maybe that's what's needed. But in any case, again, it's all just about kind of like different ways of getting at the same thing. And if there's things that just are like, I can't quite push into that right now, nothing in the document is going to force you to do that.
Yeah.
But I think as weekend together, having some fun, thinking about the future, for me, I know in those years where maybe something hard, maybe I wasn't in a great place, it's still been helpful.
For us,
Totally.
I think, Matt's almost 45. I'm going to be 40. No, I don't know how old I am.
Go get
40
there, guys.
or something like that. I would say so many of our peers, in the last decade have hit the milestone of turning 40 like you did this year. And it can really bring up a lot for people. I just have heard so many stories of 40 just being this thing for so many people. And I would say it did bring up a lot for both of us. Like that milestone was huge. And doing the focus lab, we both did it around 40, and the consistency of the Read Retreat was really important. So if you have like, whether it's this milestone of turning 40, or maybe you're about to be empty nesters, or maybe you're done having kids and that's a new season that you're moving into, it really feels like it's so important to mark the moments. And that's why we created this, to just kind of help facilitate those conversations you might not naturally have.
Yeah.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. And to your point, I'm like literally looking at the itinerary right now. Make it fun. Like at the very least, it's like you did yoga and then you went and got a pre-dinner cocktail. I mean, there was a season when Den and I were in marriage counseling, and we really needed it. It was like we were kind of in that situation where it was like we were both so deep in our own stories, and we needed an objective third party, like to just kind of help us find each other again and align or at least understand one another's stories. And it was a pretty acute season. And there came a moment where we were kind of like, it felt like we knew that we were just like, we got the support that we needed. And then we were literally like, what if we literally just took the money that we would spend on counseling and put that same money towards a babysitter and a nice dinner out? It would be very interesting to know what the impact of that would have on our marriage.
Yeah.
Just like there are seasons where you just got to get the wins and go and just go build up.
Have fun together.
Do the thing, have fun. And remember, I have a friend who just started counseling, and she said that so we were following up, how did it go? And she said the therapist had their whole first session was just like, tell me the story of you, of the couple. How did you meet? What did you fall in love with? And I thought that was so lovely because often, especially in like a therapeutic setting or even in a setting like this, we want to come in and we want to like attack the problems. I really loved the idea of like, let's remember why you guys got together in the first place. And I know when I do that with Ben, it is like, it's wild how much I just am like, I remember. And frankly, and I don't think we're that unique. It's like the things in our marriage that have become kind of sticky, tricky parts are pretty much directly related to like, I can tie that back to going like, that is literally one of the reasons that I fell in love with you.
Yeah.
Now I'm living with it 24/7 for 15 years. And it's like, okay, it might be a little much of a good thing, my man. and I know that he feels the same way about me, but it's so powerful when you can kind of go, I think that's why we love going to weddings. You know, you kind of go back to, you fell in love for a reason. Let's not just like talk about the deficits or the hard parts, but let's also create space for that. So I would really encourage you, if you're in a harder season, of like maybe just index on trying to like build up goodwill, trust, intimacy, and go a little light on kind of attacking the problems in the strategy and just use this as a way to kind of rekindle some of what was there at some point. Okay.
I know you have to get going. So I want to let you go to your next thing, but I wanted to say thank you for being an incredible bridesmaid, for participating with us 10 years ago. And I will say, I agree with you. Matt and I love weddings, but we are in this dry season where we don't know anybody getting married. So anyone out there that's being married, invite Ben, Liz, Matt, and Joy. We will come to your wedding and we will make it the best wedding you've ever been to.
Listen, I don't want to brag, but I'm not joking. I think the four of us could literally be paid wedding guests.
Yeah,
like
we'll raise the ceiling.
Yeah,
for sure.
The toast.
Oh,
the
come on now.
Just like get us on the dance floor.
Yeah.
I mean, the four of us can raise the energy and celebration of
that dance floor.
wedding.
I mean, it's
gonna go off. I literally,
for the lowest cost of $50,000, you're gonna get all four of us coming.
We're cheaper. You just pay for our travel and lodging. We'll come and a free dinner. But Liz, do you know? I just thought of the best game ever. Going to a wedding and you have, until an hour into cocktails to have met enough family and friends of the bride and groom to curate the best toast ever.
Oh, yes.
Actually, like, really,
that would be amazing. Just like
such a fun game.
Yeah, Bruce, tell me about your niece. What's the deal? Oh, okay, that's great. Tim, why do you love your sister? Oh, that'd be great.
Be so
good. It's so good. I love it. Okay, I got to pop. Love you guys so much.
Love you. Thank you.
Thanks,
for
Liz.
your generosity of investing so intentionally in your partnership and your marriage and then sharing that with us. It is such a gift. It really has been truly such a labor of love and just super grateful. Oh, we should tell people, if you want to buy the Read Retreat, it's like a 40-page document. It comes with a video. It's readretreat.com. Is that right?
Yep. That's it.
Head to readretreat.com. It's $99, which is a ridiculous. Here is where I can be the price anchor and say, I'll charge you a lot more for 3 days. So $99 is a really good deal. Okay,
we're the gateway to focus that.
That's right. We're the gateway.
Okay, love you guys so much. Happy anniversary.
Bye. Thanks, Liz.
Bye.
Bye.